Cowabunga, friends! This is Leonardo Cyron, and today I'm going to review a super awesome tubular game for you guys and girls of the internet. Of course, I'm talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4, Turtles in Time. I'm going to review the Super Nintendo version, but that game has also an arcade version. The arcade version came out first, in September of 1991, but the Super Nintendo version only came out in August 1992, almost a year after the first arcade release. Besides the release dates, there are some differences between the arcade and the Super Nintendo version. The arcade version has one level less. It lacks the Technodrome level. But the most notable difference of all is that the arcade version has a 4-player multiplayer option, whereas the Super Nintendo only have up to 2 players, because the Super Nintendo only have 2 controller ports. One of the reasons this game is so awesome is that you've got a big variety of attacks and movements to do with the turtles. You can do the standard attack, you can do the running attack, you can do a hand flip to slide, and you have several attacks in the air. And you can also grab enemies after a tackle, which is the running attack. You can throw the enemies either forwards or towards the screen. And there's also a special attack that I only remembered to use at the end of my playthrough, which is activated by pressing both the jump and attack buttons at the same time. This is the most powerful attack of all the turtles, but it consumes your health gauge if you hit an enemy with it, so use that with caution. Let's talk about levels. The Super Nintendo versions got 10 different levels, and the most fun part of it is that since the turtles travel in time, each level has a different theme to it, which is very fun. The 3 first levels are situated in New York. The first level is on top of a building, and the second is on the streets. The third level is on the sewer. It's a special level, it's called a bonus level, but it has a boss at the end of it, so what kind of bonus is that? But anyway, it's on the sewers and you skate over the water. It's very fun. Fourth level, Technodrome, one of my favorite levels, because you know, most of the levels of the game are just a straight line to the finish. But the Technodrome has got a elevator part, which is short, but gives a sense of depth to a otherwise simple level structure. Level 5's got the hardest boss. This level is the prehistoric one, because after Technodrome the turtles start traveling in time, so they begin in prehistory. Then in level 6 they go to the pirate era, so the level is on a pirate ship, and it's very cool. 7th level is on a Old West train, which is a classic and very enticing setting if you ask me. Level 8 is Neon Knight Riders. Another skate test, but this time you spend most of the level going towards the depth of the screen instead of going sideways. Level 9, Starbase, one of the hardest levels, even though it doesn't have the hardest boss. And finally we've got level 10, which is just a boss fight against Shredder, or should I say Super Shredder. Well, I'd like to highlight the negative and positive points of this game. I will start talking about the bad things. Well, the first one and most notable of all, the air attacks are a little confusing, which is the only part of the gameplay which doesn't feel right. Most of the movements are very fluid and very intuitive, but you have many kinds of aerial attacks. And to be honest, even even though I played this game many times, I still don't know how to do each one of them when I want them. Sometimes it is really frustrating because even though they're not intuitive, they're very useful. All of them has their uses, and if you can't use them properly when you want them, when you need them, that becomes a problem. Another thing that some people might complain about is that most enemies are just recolors of the standard foot ninja with a different weapon. I dig that, I like ninja recoloring, Mortal Kombat style. But some people might say this is lazy. But come to think of it, aren't the turtles just recolors with different weapons? Well, of course, they've got different personalities as well, and we don't get to know the personalities of each foot ninja, but think of it, that's not such a big flaw at all, is it? Well, another thing that makes the mechanics a little less fluid than they could be is that sometimes hitting enemies that are in a different layer of depth than you are is a little tricky. Sometimes you really think that you can hit them, but they're too far away depth-wise for you to do so. This is especially frustrating in the skate levels, because everything there comes and goes much faster, so you have less time to adjust your depth to attack things. And there's one more thing about the aerial gameplay that really got in my nerve, is that the turtles take too long to get out of the ground. They take too long to jump. Lots of times I had finished a combo on an enemy and I wanted to get away because they were going to counterattack. Jumping is not a safe option at all. Well, I talked a bit about the skate levels. They're very cool, thematic wise, but they lack depth, because everything comes and goes too fast. You don't get to use all kinds of attacks. The enemies, well, most of them die with just one hit, so you can't grab them, and all the other attacks becomes like one shot. You either kill them or they go through the screen. I don't think that's very fun. There's another thing that bugs me in this game, and that is the story. Of course, you may say, well, that's the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's an absurd concept. How can you expect something from the story? Well, then I'm going to answer it to you. That's the point. It's an absurd concept. I want an absurd funny story. Does the game deliver that? No. The damsel is kidnapped. Go after her. Time travel. That's it. Well, of course the story is not very important in such kinds of games, but I'd really be lying if I said it's good. And the last negative thing I've got to talk about the game is the difficulty progression is not very linear. The 5th level is way harder than the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, and most notably, the hardest boss in all the game is Slash. Slash is the only boss that's not easy to understand. All the other bosses are easy to read. You get to know how they're going to attack at certain time. But with Slash, it's much more chaotic. He's much faster, he's much stronger, and he's going to punish you for not attacking properly. But despite that, the game is overall a great experience. And you're going to get to know why, because now I'm going to talk about the good things in the game. The first thing you get to know is that the options menu is very rich. My favorite option of all. You can choose to wear the colors of the original comics. Well, I know, in the original comic they actually wore only red bandanas. So the game does sort of a mix-up. Even though most enemies are foot ninjas with recoloring, their mechanics are very different. They use lots of different weapons. Tonfas, staves, their bare hands, bombs, bows and arrows, and even more. They are very fun to see and fight against. And I'm only talking about the foot ninjas because you've got rock monsters, which attack by tackling or by shooting. You've got those annoying freaking robots that I hate with all of my heart. You've got even foot ninjas on dinosaurs. How cool is that? This is even not considering the bosses, which are very diverse as well. Each one of them's got a unique mechanic. They're not just a big guy that walks around and punches you, like in lots of beat 'em ups of that time. No, they've got their own attack patterns and weapons, and you've got to figure it out how to beat them. This is very cool. And comparing the game again with other beaten ups, the scenario is a little more interactive. I know you don't get to grab weapons on the ground to attack with, but you've got manholes in the floor to fall down and avoid attacks. And the most fun thing of all is to throw hydrants or cones into the enemies. The bomb pizza that you can touch in the ground to start spinning and killing all of the enemies is very cool too. The only power-up you can get, besides the bomb pizza, is a regular pizza, which restores all of your health. So you don't have many options of food, you just have what you need. And I consider that a good point. And as I said, except for Slash, every boss is easy to understand. Even Super Shredder, you know, when he's fiery blue, he's going to shoot upwards. When he's fiery red, he's going to shoot on the floor. When he's fiery green, he's going to shoot forwards, and you better watch out. When you talk about the Ninja Turtles, you're talking about that groovy spirit of the late 80s, and that is shown through the music. The musics are all very upbeat and they really get you in the mood of fighting enemies. They're very good too. But the most important thing of the game that makes this game such a rich experience is the fact that the controls are fluid. The jumping attacks of course are not intuitive, but they flow well. The ground attacks, the tackling, the throwing, the sliding on the floor, all of that feels great to do. And you don't feel like you're just walking forwards to punch forwards like in other beaten ups. No, you can run, you can jump and attack, you can grab, you can do a lot of things to a lot of diverse enemies, and it flows and it is great. That is why I'd recommend this game for all of you guys. You can play it and have a great time. Go ahead. Cowabunga, friends! That's the review for today. If you liked that, please share and subscribe. And don't forget, this is the gaming generation. Please like our Facebook page for more awesome game content every day. Also, check out my YouTube channel. I post lots of gameplay content. Most of them are fighting games, and some are very funny single-player montages as well. I also do Twitch streaming. Please check it out and have a great time, because I know you will. See you! Cowabunga! Until next time!